Hi everyone. Our team chose the Chevron Corporation to complete our project on. Our group members are Anthony, Derek, myself, and Michael. To give a little overview of the company, Chevron Corporation is an American multinational energy corporation. It's headquartered in San Ramon, California, and active in more than 180 countries. Chevron is engaged in every aspect of the oil, natural gas, including hydrocarbon exploration and production, refining, marketing, and transport. Chevron is one of the world's largest companies. As of March 2020, it ranked 15th in the Fortune 500 with a yearly revenue of 146.5 billion dollars and a market valuation of 136 billion dollars. Starting with Chevron's internal analysis, the company creates prosperity through local and inclusive economic opportunities. They encourage their partners to meet high standards of safety, social, and environmental performance. The chart to the right is Chevron's value chain. Starting with supply chain management, Chevron has crude supply, gas supply, and product supply trading. They operate through exploration, production, power generation, refining, and chemicals. Distribution is done through pipelines and shipping. Their marketing is done through Chevron's stations and Techron additives. Follow-up services include education and career training. This is a chart of Chevron's competitive landscape. Chevron was one of the successor companies of Standard Oil. Their major competitors include Marathon Oil, BP, ExxonMobil, ConocoPhillips, and Shell. Moving on to the five forces analysis. The threat of new entrants is low. Capital for entry is extremely high in the industry, including the intricacies and knowledge required for R&D and acquired materials. This makes it very hard for new competitors to enter. Heavy focus on R&D and forward-thinking innovation deters competition from entering. The bargaining power of suppliers is low. There are many suppliers in the oil and gas industry. This means that these suppliers must compete for the business. If Chevron does not like the price, they can threaten the supplier with the notion that they will switch suppliers, thus reducing supplier power. Chevron has large infrastructure, and this size allows them to buy products in bulk, leveraging their suppliers to reduce costs. The distribution channel of oil and gas is complex and fast, meaning no single supplier can fully cater to each company, opening them up to less bargaining power. The bargaining power of buyers is low. The government regulates the gas and oil pricing, allowing very little bargaining power for buyers. Switching costs to other competition of Chevron is low. As there are numerous buyers on the market, this means there is little threat to Chevron. Chevron can leverage its large customer base to help diversify its portfolio, increase its profit level, and reduce its risk overall. The threat from substitute products is high. Competition in the oil and gas industry is very high, with similar competition from BP and Exxon. Each competitor is regulated on price, so a differentiation strategy is needed to gain market share. Chevron needs to focus on being service-oriented and understand the core needs to its customers. Chevron can also increase market share by improving the product while keeping its costs low. Rivalry among the existing players is high. Having intense rivalries among a few large players causes prices to be driven down, thus decreasing overall profitability of the rivals. Government does regulate and control the amount of competition between rivals. This can be done through regulations and price controls. The oil and gas industry has low exit barriers. This means the weaker the firms inevitably will leave the market and thus increase the profits for the remaining firms. Moving on to the corporate level strategy. Transferring of core competencies. It's used to improve local and international platforms of our operations. It's also used by pushing excelling operations such as production and distribution. This allows companies to restructure business activities across all levels of companies. Chevron operates in a highly competitive industry. Chevron has both slow and fast cycle markets. The company values integrity, protecting people as well as the environment, diversity, partnerships, and high performance. Next, we have the business level strategy. Product differentiation in a number of commodities such as fuel, lubricants, and renewable sources of energy. Cut down on the possible competition within the industry. This attracts new loyal customers within the market. Chevron is always seeking technological advances to gain a competitive edge. Through cost leadership, Chevron reduces costs charged to its customers. This ensures companies' overhead costs and production processes are strong and controlled. This strategy is utilized globally to sustain a significant market size for the firm. Chevron has adopted strategic facilities that lower the cost to produce their products. Next, we identified areas where the company's strategy is defective and provided solutions for them. A defective strategy we found was attempting to keep prices low by continuously acquiring land full of fossil fuels and crude oil, leading to an overabundance of these resources. The solution we came up with was to trim capital expenditures on exploration and focus on existing oil reserves. In the short term, this increases revenue and reduces costs. In the long term, lack of investment in future growth can leave Chevron behind against the competition. Another defective strategy we found was the environmental challenges in foreign markets and accusations. Large spills in Ecuador from the Texaco led to lawsuits and damage to the environment. The solution we came up with was when the accusations are made, new personnel and capital needs to be trained and brought up to the Chevron standards. Large investments in high efficiency and new age facilities will reduce chances of spills. 5 dimensions that characterize a firm's entrepreneurial mindset: risk-taking, competitive aggressiveness, innovativeness, autonomy, and proactiveness. Risk-taking is low. They lack vision for renewables, with investment much smaller than competition. Their focus is on core oil and gas operations. For competitive aggressiveness, we rated medium. 6 of the biggest oil companies have only spent 1% of their budget on green energy. Chevron has geothermal projects for the past 2 decades, and they abandoned them due to low returns. BP is the largest proponent of renewables, investing 2 gigawatts compared to Chevron's 65 megawatts. Innovationists, we rated high. Renewable innovation is lacking. However, Chevron continues to win awards for most innovative based on customers' perception and experience. Proactiveness, we rated low. Chevron falls in the 7th place compared to the competition in the power play rankings for investment in renewable energies. Chevron and other oil companies are hesitant to invest as renewable returns average 10% lower than oil and gas. Autonomy, rated high. Heavy focus on reinforcement-based leadership style. They focus on praising employees and providing valuable, consistent, and honest feedback on performance. Merger and acquisition strategies. Under renewable M&As, we have investing of in-house renewables would be extremely costly and a large chunk of their R&D budget. In this case, they would be better suited utilizing M&A to explore these new energy options. To date, Chevron has had very little M&A when it comes to renewable energies. Most notably is deal with Algonquin Power and Utilities, which would provide renewable power for their Chevron operations in Argentina, Kazakhstan, and Australia. Oil and gas M&A. Chevron is still engaging in lucrative M&A in oil and gas, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic caused a sharp decline in oil demand, which placed intense pressure on oil companies with large amounts of debt owed. Noble Energy out of Houston, Texas, was one of these companies struggling. Chevron acquired Noble Energy for $5 billion, increasing their oil production and reach. Chevron is continuing to take advantage of smaller oil companies, preserving cash while making strategic horizontal acquisitions within their industry. Any questions?